Libya has announced a new unity government aimed at bringing rival factions together. The Presidential Council, which is based in Tunisia, says the new government will have 32 ministers. It's part of a UN-backed plan to restore peace in the country after nearly 5 years of turmoil. Well, joining me now is Omar Turbi. He is a former political advisor for the Interim National Council of Libya. Mr. Turbi, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, how optimistic are you that this national unity government will actually be accepted by the operating factions in Libya?
We have to all be optimistic, obviously. But going forward, trying to design or implement a government with 32 ministers is a non-starter because we're back to square one of heavy discussions and wrangling back and forth late 2011, 12, 13, when they wanted to satisfy tribal needs, regional needs, all that kind of needs. And how could you have 32 ministers work together? And then also, it seems like the HOR in Tripoli, in Tobruk, and in Tripoli haven't really endorsed this whole process. The only parties that we see are working on this is the UN, some of the European envoys. We have to see what happens in the next 30 days, whether Libyans, East and West, would come together to work with this new unity government or not.
So you've outlined a number of serious obstacles, but is this still the best case scenario deal, or was there a better way to reach a sustainable national reconciliation?
You know, my thought process has always been, if the United Nations wants to help Libya, it should actually put down a 9 months, 12 months plan to get a legislative body, a new legislative body in place. That's where you start. Once you have that, you have the legal and legislative body that will bring about a presidential council, president of a parliament, bring about a prime minister, some level of government that's going to design or put together a government. I think they're doing it backwards. They're bringing in a government, then maybe in hopes of this government working with the Eastern House of Representatives in Libya and also the former GNC, and going forward trying to ratify a constitution that Libya, you know, has been trying to work an old constitution to use. So
okay.
It's good to be optimistic, but there's not that much to be optimistic about from what I see.
Yeah, and as you're clearly expressing, I just one final question for you then. What about Daesh in Libya? Will this new government at least be the first step toward eliminating Daesh in the country, or is it strictly working on political reconciliation and not on the military challenges?
Well, if you don't have a good functioning government in place, you're not even going to be able to deal with your own militias, handle them, incorporate them, assimilate them into your national army, let alone dealing with renegade extremist terrorist groups in Libya. You know, Libya is a very massive country. It's very large. It has a very long coast. And it has always been a problem with the old dictatorship, with the current level of governance in Libya. The borders are very porous. You can get in and out of Libya easily. So it's going to be very hard, and it's going to be a huge challenge trying to eliminate Daesh. But one must put things in the right perspective. Daesh in Libya, or that influence in Libya, is almost when you compare that with what's happening in Iraq or Syria, it's like comparing the size of an ant to an elephant.
Okay.
The challenges that we're dealing with now is getting a government in place, getting a very viable House of Representatives, getting a good legislative branch that operates, good court system, good security system. The Europeans and the Americans haven't actually taken aggressive steps to see that forward. Libyans by nature, like most countries in that region, I should say, that are worried about the sovereignty. They don't want any interference from outside. But if we can get the UN to work with the Security Council, that includes Libya, includes the UK, France, the US, obviously the Russians and the Chinese have to come on board on this, to get a system going in place to hopefully foresee or plan between 9 months to 12 months, put a fresh, a really strong representative legislative body in Libya. But doing it this way now, I don't think is going to go very far.
Okay, Omar Turbi, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your analysis on that.